So, I was hoping for a really fabulous Ford Escort Mark 1. When I spoke to Paul and said, let's get an Escort, one of the most searched for cars on the web, I did think that he would be on the same page as me and think, yeah, Ford Escort Mark 1. Turned up today, and here we have this. It's not quite. Hello, troublesome.
Now, you told me, because this isn't a Mark 1 Escort, Sarah said to me, for the final car in the Great British Car Show for this second series, I had to sell the Mark 3 or Mark 4 as it was technically known, Escort to her. So here I am, I'm a 1980s salesman. You are a 1980s woman.
Right, okay.
So just, cleanse all thoughts of 2023.
Okay.
It's 1988.
Okay, it's 1988.
Yeah. Sarah, this is the all-new facelifted Mark 3 Escort.
I was looking for a Mark 1.
I know that, but they're very old.
Have you got any in stock?
They're very old now. This is the new. No, you go with it. This is 1988.
Okay.
She's not getting this. I've even got power stripes on my tyre. I had
You
in
actually
1988.
match the interior fabric.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And what wonderful fabric it is. Have you seen it?
It's very lovely, actually. But
In 1986, we introduced these double-bodied seats where you have the pattern up to about there and a different pattern above there.
Oh, wow.
We didn't run out of material.
Yeah, obviously not. No.
And let me show you something, which, I mean, if nothing else sells this facelifted Mark III Escort, because Ford don't want to refer to this in 1988 as a Mark IV Escort to you, this will.
Okay.
Previously, the Valencia engine was only available in 1100. This is a 1.3L.
Wow.
And it has a Valencia engine. Yeah?
Crikey.
Yeah, no, this is refined. And one of the complaints on the Mark III Escort was that the drivetrain was very unrefined, very clunky. So what we've done, and you can't see it, and I would never, madam, get you to bend down on your knees to have a look under the car, but believe me, it's there. There's a very... You're back in 2023. It's 1988.
No, that is 988.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right, okay, sorry.
Not allowed him to.
Oh, okay. Under here is a very special subframe that we added in 1986 just to help the
And I'm
drivetrain be
going to
more
notice
refined.
that difference, am I?
You are. It's so much more refined, madam.
Okay.
We have rear seat belts because in 1988 we put these on the features list. The rear seat belts, inertia reel. I mean, we've carried those over from the Mark III, the normal Mark III, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's still a selling point because we put them in the brochures. I've seen the brochures from 1988. They're all in there. Lots of leg room. Sit in the back, madam. Lots of leg room. Yes? You can tell that she's starting to fall in love with the Mark III facelift Escort. Now, madam, I must insist that you drive this 1.3L Escort. You can see it's a 1.3L because we put it on the boot lid. Yes? I think she's sold. I don't think I'm in trouble any longer.
What's the price?
Right, madam. Can I stop calling you madam now?
I quite like it.
Okay,
Can you continue?
Carry on.
Well, I'll let you into a little secret. I did actually own one of these. Back in the day,
I hope it was brown.
it was a 1.1 Popular
Ah, that would have had the Valencia engine as well.
in the beautiful beige. So that will have been early 90s.
Yep.
I obviously didn't buy it brand new, you know. And I did love it. It drove great.
Yep. In many ways, though, although going back to our original brief for this series of the Great British Car Show, we were looking for cars which are the most popular searched for cars. We're almost at that next tier where people start looking for the cars that haven't previously been searched for, aren't they? And companies like yours start to really point people in the direction of those cars. And this could be one of those, couldn't it? The unloved earlier Mark IV, as it is known, Escort, with the lower engine specs and the you know, the not the special editions. And
Well,
I think that's important.
This is a kind of car that I'm going to expect to see at tomorrow's Festival of the Unexceptional.
Yeah, of course.
This is the perfect car for that festival. You know, I know it's got a big oval badge and whatnot, but it's an unexceptional car, isn't it? Really?
It is, and it was unexceptional for Ford as well, because it didn't handle as well as the Mark 1, the Mark 2. It didn't follow on very well actually as a successor to those cars, did it? And Ford's win on Sunday, buy on Monday mantra didn't quite fit the Mark 3 and then the Mark 3 facelift, because actually it didn't have any success on Sunday. So, you know, the salesman had to do what I just did and point to the inertia reel seatbelts and the 4-channel stereo.
They obviously did the same job as what you did in regards of success rate, because
I thought I did all right. I wore the power tie.
You did very well.
That's all you had to do in the 80s, wasn't it?
I think you found your vocation in life. Do you fancy coming to work for me?
So this wasn't a very successful competition car, albeit, you know, it did spawn the 700T, which, although again not successful, has become a bit of a legendary homologation car. It did have a little bit of success on the race tracks. I mean, you remember the Royal Mail, the Data Post touring car, for example, but everything seemed to go backwards in this era for Ford.
Yeah.
And yet, this remained one of the best-selling, one of the most popular family cars, despite the fact that, you know, the new Cadet was out. You had all sorts of cars coming out from Vauxhall. The Japanese were big in this market.
Was at its height, wasn't it? Really?
And yet the Escort still prevailed. It wasn't as successful, perhaps, as Ford hoped it would be, and they stepped that up when they moved to the Mark 5 Escort. So I know I didn't give you a Mark 1 Escort.
Which I also had.
Did you?
Yeah.
Fab, you've done with Escorts what I did with Fiestas. So I didn't give you a Mark 1 Escort, I know, and that is the car when we're talking about Escorts.
Of course it is.
But I do think that this is, and I don't talk about the RS turbos and the XL3. I was going to say that. I'm talking about these L models.
Yeah.
I think these are the next car that people will, thanks to concepts like the Festival of the Unexceptional.
Yeah.
I think these will be growers.
I think they already do have a following. Yeah, but they just need to be a little bit more loved, don't they? Really, for what they are.
And if you were someone who either owned one of these or perhaps whose parents had one of these when they were growing up, the last thing you would expect to be on a driving experience roster would be an Escort 1.3L, isn't it? And that's kind of the magic of this.
And do you know what? It is lovely to drive. It really is.
I love this era of Ford. I was big into my XR2s. I used to build them, I used to race them. I love 1980s, late 1980s Fords. So the dashboard's very comforting to me.
Really.
I even love the really naff rubber
the rubber gears.
Gear gaiter, yeah. It's just very 1980s Ford.
And look at that. Brown plastic.
That marked so easily when you put your bag down and scrape the dash.
Scratched it all, yeah.
And then the handles were always looked like a dog had been chewing them, didn't they? Because of how bad the plastic was.
But I don't think it looks particularly plasticky. You know, it is. It's a massive plastic, but it doesn't look cheap. I don't think it does. Compared to some cars.
I mean, who's the salesman here? Because I think it looks cheap.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't think it does.
I just think because my dad had a Vauxhall Cavalier.
Yeah.
And when you got in a Vauxhall, or even an Astra, after one of these, they had the soft touch vinyl dash.
Yeah.
And it looked chunky, it looked tactile, compared to the Fords that looked very primitive and very plasticky and very...
I'm alright with it.
Yeah?
I'm good with that. And to be honest, this one's stood the test of time. It's not too bad.
It's in beautiful
it's been
condition,
looked
isn't
after.
it?
Yeah.
I just think at this time, and it's part of the charm of these cars, it's like when we talk about the failure of British Leyland and BMC. It's not because we dislike the cars, we love the cars, and we almost love them more for the historics and the problems in the boardroom, don't we? Because it adds some poetry to the story. But this for me was when Ford were really struggling. I think it was a bit of a nowhere land for Ford when they brought this Escort out, because they had the Mark III and that was okay. But then this was basically a softer version of that, and the world wanted something more. And then came the Mark V.
The Ford Escort would never quite rule the roost in showrooms until it finally elbowed the Cortina aside in 1981, becoming the UK's best-selling car with the introduction of the Mark III. The platform was going strong by the time the facelift, known as the Mark IV, dropped into the timeline. But by 1991, the competition was fierce, and Vauxhall was coming on strong, the Cavalier almost matching the Escort for sales numbers. We all expected big things from the Mark V, but it didn't exactly set the world alight. Well, not until the Escort Cosworth and Z-Tech engines came along anyway.
Here's the thing. People rushed out to buy the leftover Mark IVs, just like they're about to do again, as this era of Ford Escort gathers momentum in the classic car world. There's so much love for these base models too, and I can totally see why. You must be rather sweaty.
I've got that 1980s salesman sweat going on, the beads of sweat on my forehead, hoping I can
Is she
save
going to
the
buy it?
deal.
Isn't she going to buy it? Is she going to buy it? Isn't she going to buy it? So
Is she going to buy it? Oh, am I still in the doghouse for picking a Mark
well,
III?
do you know what? I think you've still got some selling to do.
She's buying it, I can tell.
Hang on. So, before you do drive this,
Yep.
I'm interested to know what Richard's favourite fact is about this car, what he likes about this car, or a fact about this car. Have we got Richard?
This doesn't strike me as a Richard kind of a car, so me too. Check the glove box.
Aha.
Aha.
What do you think it might be? What do you think Richard likes about this car?
What would Richard like about this car? I don't know. Because it's very... Richard likes his quirky cars. He likes cars with really interesting little nuggets of history and information. And this isn't that. So I don't know. He will like how clean it is. He does admire cars that have been kept in really good condition, that he doesn't have to restore, because he doesn't really like restored cars. He likes cars in good condition. Is it that? Am I overthinking it?
You are overthinking it. Richard says it's such an ergonomic delight inside. Very clear instruments, great switches, and so light to drive. I'm 100% with Richard. 100%. I love it.
In a world now where, I mean, I've just got a new car and everything's on the screen. In a world, even the dials, I mean, the gauges have gone, there's no needles.
Yes.
So in a world of screens, yeah, you're right, the switches are great, they're very tactile, but that's the same for any old car. Was this an ergonomic delight when it came out? I'll tell you what is an ergonomic delight. I like something and I dislike something.
Okay.
Yeah? Right. I
Hit me with it.
really love the stubby indicator stalks and light stalks.
Yeah.
I think they're just really cool.
Yeah.
And multi-function light on there. They're nice.
Yeah, they are.
Not floppy big things. Why do we go back to the big ones after that? I don't know.
It looks quality, doesn't it?
Because after that we went to big ones again.
Yeah.
So I love those. They're cool.
Yeah.
Someone probably complained, didn't they? They sat there in a showroom saying, I can't reach it. Maybe. I don't know. Why would you change back from that? That's a step forward. But I dislike these. And why they have to be there, I don't know. The speaker positioning button. I mean, it's a big old lever and it's stuck on the middle of the dash. I mean, hide it.
Yeah, it's a bit clumsy, isn't it?
That is not an ergonomic delight.
Yeah, that is a bit clumsy. But it's useful. There's lots of space, put all your stuff. It's good looking. Like you say, the knobs are real. Ooh, you just want to put the heater on just so you can flick the switch.
I do like it. I think these Fords were very underrated. The sporty ones were obviously not underrated,
Yes.
or aren't now at least.
Yeah.
Although they went through a period of being underrated, XL3Is were nowhere. No one's business, were they? No one really wanted those. As a Sierra P100 pickup drives past us, I've got to love the Great British Car Journey. It's like you arrive in a different parallel universe, one where only classic cars matter. what's remarkable for me is that somebody has looked after this 1.3L, and it is in almost showroom condition. If you come and
It's
drive
in
this car, or drive Dad's
brilliant
car, or even come
condition.
and look at it when you're at the Great British Car Journey,
And it just
it's
takes
incredible.
you back. The
It does.
fabrics are
It does.
fabulous.
And what's remarkable to me is that somebody would keep this car in that condition beyond any time when it was treasured as an asset or financially viable to do so. You know, there have been times when sticking a CV boot on this car would have been more than the car was worth. And yet somebody has done that, and somebody has kept it like
But
this.
we do though, don't we? We all do
We
that
do.
with our classics. We don't
But this wasn't
do
a
it-
classic is what I'm saying, and yet here it is now.
Yeah, it is.
And
It
whoever
is
you
now.
are, whoever bought this car and kept it in this condition, looked after it, cherished it, even though it wasn't an XR3i, even though it wasn't an RS Turbo, we salute you, because that's what the Great British Car Show is all about, isn't it?
Definitely is. 100% in a nutshell.
So going back to the most popular, most searched for cars in the UK, we've
Yeah.
done the Land Rover Series 2. Obvious why that is searched for, and having driven it now, I've had my mind fully changed. It doesn't belong in a museum, it needs to be driven. It's a glorious bit of theatre.
Yeah.
We've done the Capri, neither of us needed any convincing on that
No.
one. We were already the converted.
Already there.
Didn't need any
Already
preaching.
there. I was just so scared it was going to not fulfil
Yeah.
what I thought, but it didn't.
And then we've had two good news stories really as well, haven't we? Because the
Yeah.
Stag in particular was something that
Yes.
neither of us were looking forward to
No.
driving, would never choose to drive, would
No.
definitely never choose to own, and now I'm almost sold. I'm not quite there, but
yeah,
that V8,
I'm with you. Yes.
that V8,
Yeah.
I certainly, even if I don't want one, I certainly appreciate them, and I didn't before.
It'd
and
be
I think
nice
that's
to
good.
have one on the drive just for those 4 sunny days of the year that we have in the UK. I could just get it out and blast it down the country lanes. It would be lovely.
And then this is my second good news story, because I love, with motoring, the biggest thing for me is finding out something new, finding something new that I like. I now do like Triumph Stags. I do. I appreciate
Yes,
them.
yeah.
And I appreciate that you don't need it to be an XR3i or an RS Turbo to be a cool Escort, and you don't need it to be the most searched for Ford
Yeah.
Escort, because you know what? The Mark III one day will follow the Mark 1, and when it
Hopefully.
does, Sarah will be helping you make a lot of money. Because Evoque Classics
Do you
will
know
be
what?
bursting
Just-
at the seams
just
with them.
thinking about the 4 that we've actually got today, those 4 cars actually make a really good car collection in themselves, don't they? I'd have those 4 on my drive, all 4 specific things. They
Yeah.
all fit, don't they?
Yeah.
What a good little car collection. I think we've had a great time today.
Yeah, I do like this. I would never have chosen anything less than an XR3i when it came to a Mark III or Mark IV Escort, depending on how you look at it. But I'm sold on the stubby indicator stalks. I'm sold on the fact that somebody has cherished this enough to keep it in this condition,
Yeah.
even when it was worth as much of as a bag of crisps.
Yeah.
And I love that now it will start to appreciate, and then future generations will see that actually we didn't all drive around in Escorts that had loud exhausts and louvers in the bonnets. We actually drove around in cars like this, and
Yeah.
I guess that's why, although it wasn't the most searched for Escort just yet, it still belongs in this lineup.
Definitely.
But I'm still sorry I got it wrong.
You will be. You've redeemed yourself. And okay, I'll take it. How much is it?